these calls, so we're going to be quick. Calling from a 954 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sammy, it's Michael.
Michael from Florida.
Miami,
What's up?
Except we're about 10 minutes from the shooting location, actually, so we're right in the middle of this. Normally I would have called you guys. I talked to Michael earlier in the week. We had a pretty good conversation, but since you're going on vacation and since obviously this thing happened 10 minutes from where I live, some perspective I thought was necessary, at least at this point in time, regarding what was going on. I don't know how much information you've gotten. National people have been all over the story, as you can imagine, literally since the minute the shots went off at 2:30 yesterday afternoon. But, it's you read about this stuff, you hear about it, and then it happens 5 minutes or 10 minutes from your house, and it affects your neighbors, your coworkers, people you employ, people you see at a restaurant or at the supermarket, and it kind of hits home.
Right.
More so than usual. So this one, it may not have the same visceral impact that Sandy Hook did, but I'm telling you, this one's not going to go away easily. I think the confluence of a lot of things, the political tide, whatever's going on out there, I think this may be the one time where it may not yield immediate congressional change, but I think something's going to happen that heretofore has not happened yet. I mean, it may be something as worthless as background checks, which wouldn't have stopped this kid. It may yield something else regarding, it'll stop that interstate transportation nonsense, which I talked about with Michael the other day, where they're going to allow people to carry, concealed weapons from state to state.
Reciprocity, right.
6 months. So God help those 17 people that died, and there's a couple other people still in intensive care. But I mean,
well, I think
I think a lot of momentum now that wasn't there 5 or 6 years ago. And let me just say this one, because I know you got people holding, but I'm not going to talk to you for weeks. So, if you want to lay the blame at someone's feet, then you can look back at December 2012, right after Obama had been reelected. He refused to use the bully pulpit to his effectiveness and really fight, and I mean fight, to get something done. He didn't want to do it because that's not in his nature, so he did what he usually does, which is to do nothing. Essentially was his hallmark of a second term. And I think that literally emboldened those characters more than anything else. Because if he had gone city to city, town to town, state to state, and said, I'm here in Sandy Springs, Texas, I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska, I'm here in wherever the mass shooting was, in Washington, in California, and said, these are the lists of the people who are killed in your community, and your people want to do nothing, I guarantee you there would have been enough political groundswell to create some type of change had he wanted to extend himself and put forth his political capital. But he didn't want to do it. So you got nothing done.
Yep.
He sat there in the East Room and cried on TV. Well, big effing deal. Okay, that's not going to help us now. And it's not going to help the people who died yesterday, and it won't help anybody else who dies in the future. You have to take these guys who are on the other side by the throat, stick them up against the wall, and say, look, this is the way it's going to be. You either do this, or we will cut your effing heart out. This is stopping here and now. I mean, it's the line from the Untouchables. They send one of yours to the hospital, you send one of theirs to the morgue. That's how you deal with these people. That's it. No more nonsense, no more negotiating, no more common ground, no more nonsense. This is how you have to do this. Because we are sick and tired of burying 6-year-olds who can't stand to go to school without being slaughtered. I mean, now they're going to come out with this kid was MS-13. That's bullshit. This kid was a maladjusted, quite frankly, outcast who probably had significant mental health problems, who liked to kill rats and squirrels and small animals. He was a textbook example of a sociopath. And they knew that, but they didn't have the wherewithal, or he fell through the cracks. Christ knows. At this point, it doesn't really matter, especially the families. But don't tell me this nonsense that was mental illness. Not when every other civilized country in the world has mental illness. And every other civilized country has people who are depressed and feel like outcasts. We're the ones who sell AK-15s to or AR-15s to these kids. Nobody else.
Right. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know.
And your idea and Jamie's idea about posting these guys' names, abso-fucking-lutely. Do it. Do it and post it in fucking billboards.
Well, you know what is...
Put it out there like they do in Times Square when they run the deficit and the debt clock. Do it every day. You know, AR-15 manufactured by Joe Schmo Industries. Total profit today, $5 billion. Total profit tomorrow, $6 billion. And just run it like a countdown clock.
You know, I don't know.
That's the only way you're going to get it done.
I don't know what the policy is.
Anything else.
I don't know what the policy is, but I haven't seen any reporting as to who manufactured this particular AR-15.
Oh, hell, that takes, you know what? That would take a half a day's worth of work by some good, intrepid reporter.
Yep.
That's it. It wouldn't take long. The cops know who made it. They've got a copy of the gun there. They know what's going on.
Yep.
They have a copy of the sales receipt. They know where the gun was bought. By the way, it was bought legally. so much for background checks. This kid wouldn't have been stopped by background checks. He was 19 years old with no criminal history.
Right.
So he was a weirdo who liked to post things on Facebook. So do I sometimes. So do you sometimes.
Right.
It's not going to draw anybody's attention, but background checks are a placebo. Okay, pal? They are a placebo for people who think that somehow it's going to stop people who are mentally deranged from getting weapons or criminals from getting weapons. And that may happen from time to time. But it's not going to stop the essential problem. The essential problem is we're putting weapons of war in the hands of people on the streets of this country and then wondering what the hell's going on. Well, that's what's going on. And until you decide to go up and face that, and our politicians, and by the way, in Florida, we got Bill Nelson running for Senate. If he doesn't sit there in front of Marco Rubio and anybody else and Rick Scott's mansion up in Tallahassee and plant himself and show pictures of these dead kids every day of the week to drive home the point that these guys are in bed with the gun merchants, he is not going to get to first base. This is what I'm talking about. You want to be presidential, you want to be senatorial, you want to be, somehow a world leader with craftsmanship. The hell with that. We're past that point. They laugh at you. Mitch McConnell and Ryan, they laugh at you guys when you try to do that stuff. You put them up against the wall and you say, this is the way it's going to be. And if you don't like it and it offends your sensibilities, too effing bad. Go find something else to do because we are way past the point of trying to compromise with these lunatics. I am sorry to go off on a rant, but you know what? You're a smart guy. I've respected you for years. I love the fact that your platform has expanded. God bless you for doing the Lord's work at this point in time. I'm sorry to
no,
run on.
Listen. I understand. I mean, to live in that close proximity, to be a part of that community, and have this happen, as enraging as it is for the rest of us, it's got to be much more enraging and just sad to see it.
It's depressing.
Yeah,
it really is. It's just depressing. Now you can have the 17 funerals over the next 2 weeks. How do you think those kids are going to go back to school?
I don't.
How do you think they're going to carry on the rest of the year?
I don't know. I mean, I see those kids, and I don't know how the vast majority of them can recover from something like this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I imagine some, but the idea that there's not going to be a significant percentage of those kids who are going to go through the next 5-10 years of their life, like having a visceral reaction to being in certain like physical circumstances, to hearing certain noise. I mean, it's just like it's horrible. It's horrible.
It's a war zone. It's the same effect you would find with veterans who were involved in heavy hand-to-hand, street-to-street combat. It's the same kind of effect. And those guys are trained, and gals are trained for that kind of stuff. You're not trained when you're 14, you're 15 years old. Sit there and watch your coworkers, or sorry, your students and your fellow students get blown away. There's going to be stories all over the place. We'll hear about the assistant football coach who literally sacrificed himself by diving in front of 2 or 3 other kids and took like 4 or 5 bullets. You'll hear about the athletic director who was there at that high school, just transferred up. It was well known in the community for over 30 years. These are good, decent people. Good, solid. These are the people that you want to live next to, the ones you want to work with, the ones you want to, do business with. That's what we're talking about here, right? Never mind the fact that 14 kids are dead. I mean, that goes without saying. That's a tragedy of itself. But as I said before, we live in a country where we slaughter 6-year-olds and don't do a fucking thing. So give me a break and stop the hand wring. And if I hear one more person talking about, thoughts and prayers, I'm going to scream. That Steve Kerr piece you played was awesome. The only other guy I'll listen to in the sports world, and you probably know this because you're pretty good adroit, is a guy named Greg Popovich, head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. You should listen to him on some of the things about what's been said. He's awesome. Listen, I got a client waiting outside. He's going to chew me out if I don't get to him. You have a great vacation. I'll talk to you guys when you get back.
Thank you. Hang in there.